All right, I'm out here today with the 6 Moon Design Serenity Net Tent. This is a tent that you've seen in a number of my videos, and it's something that I've had for quite some time. I've certainly enjoyed it over the time that I have. I have made a few modifications, so when I set this up, I'll go over those. I just want to kind of show it to you in the original packaging that it came in. It's a 10-inch by 5-inch is how they list it, and it's got a draw cord on the top, and the bag itself is actually made out of no-seam mesh. And as soon as I got it, first thing I thought was, there's no way I'm gonna stuff this thing back in here every morning on the trail. And I don't know, it's kind of awkward to fit in the pack in this. So I have a Z-Pack stuff sack here. It's the, I want to say, small size. And so one of the very first things that I did was ditch the stuff sack and put the net tent in a larger stuff sack that weighs the same size going to the Cuban. So it's much easier to pack into the Cuban stuff sack. Let me do that real quick. So instead of being more narrow and longer, it's a little bit wider but shorter, so it kind of fits down in the pack a little bit better. It also compresses really well at this wider width that the bag offers, and so it can flatten out, and when you roll the top down of your backpack or compress it, it does quite well. So I definitely am happy with my choice to switch it out into this stuff sack. So I'm gonna get this thing set up for you, but wanted to show you kind of the first choice I made as soon as I got this thing was to put it into a different stuff sack that is better for my application. So I'm gonna get it set up and I'll be right back. 6 Moon Designs lists this Serenity Net Tent as 84 inches long and 26 inches wide with a 45-inch trekking pole. And it can be a standalone net tent all by itself. It doesn't need to be pitched up inside anything. It has its own tie outs and attachment points, so you just have to add this front guy line to it here and set your trekking pole to 45 inches. It slips inside a little sleeve that they have on the top there, and then there is a loop with a mitten hook that you would use to attach it on the inside of your tarp. It does come with this one Velcro wrap that can go around your trekking pole, and then I actually opted to add a second one just to kind of keep everything nice and tight down the front and make it a little bit easier when you're using the zipper. When you pitch this inside of a tarp, it has a pull out with a grommet for the tip of your trekking pole. And then I added a piece of shot cord here so that when I pitch it by itself, I could just loop it around the bottom of my trekking pole and be just fine. So I'm gonna move around to the side here and show you. The front of it stands straight up and down. And then there's a really drastic slant to the back wall, which is fine because if you're ever sitting up in it, I usually sit closer to the door and don't have any issues with that steep back wall like that. Now they list this as having an 8-inch tall bathtub floor. When it's pitched inside of a tarp or not by itself, it definitely can stand up 8 inches tall. Once you get some gear pushed down in the corners, definitely fills that out and stands it up, but you can see the back and the center as well as the front here. It's definitely standing at full extension, and I would agree with that 8 inches of bathtub height that they list. So I know I've gone over this in another video, but this is one of the things that I added. I did a small Cuban patch and added a loop so that I could pull this out and get extra head clearance on the inside. And I could do that with it set up by itself as well, just with a second trekking pole and extra piece of cord. So I'm gonna set the camera down and get the door open here and climb inside, and without a tarp over it, show you how much space there is inside. All right, so you can see sitting inside, I can definitely sit up. My head is barely touching the sides of the net here, and the steep back wall isn't really coming into play. But of course I am here by the edge of the door, so that makes a lot of difference. So if I lay down inside, the net's probably 6 inches or so off of my face, and then if it were to be pulled out, I would have as much room as I would ever hope to have. I would scrape my head sitting up on this. I'm 6 foot tall, and this is a regular size Thermarest Pro Light, 72 inches long, 20 inches wide at its widest, and I want to say this is the version that's 1 inch thick. But plenty of space in here. I've used this on tons of nights for not only bug protection, but for just the ability of the bathtub floor. They use a 30 denier on the floor, which makes it pretty robust against abrasions and cuts and tears, things like that. It is a rip stop, so that's really nice. When you do actually get a tear, it stops at the next square. For the most part, rip stop's pretty good about that. It is a very slippery, it's more of a, feels like a silicone impregnated type material. So I did opt to add a couple of spots of the silicone seam sealer on the floor, just in different places to keep my sleeping pad from sliding around as much. The netting, they list it as a 20D. It feels just like maybe a 0.67 no-seam if I were guessing. It has kind of the same feel to it, maybe a little softer, but not much. And then of course I've gone over it in other videos. There's just the one door here, and they have a toggle with an elastic loop to be able to tie it out. I did add one more feature inside here, so I'd like to bring you in and just take a look around real quick before we finish up and show you that. So give me just a second. All right, so I know the walls are completely net and it's kind of hard to see around on the inside, but just wanted to give you a peek and show you from the inside. The tie-outs are all reinforced here and at the floor with an extra patch of the 30D floor material, and then the corners are reinforced and rolled over there, and then they have a reinforcement at the top as well. So the feature that I added on the inside, if you've ever used net tents before, or some of the minimalist shelters, they don't really come with many features over and beyond what it just takes to protect you from whatever it's designed to protect you from, bugs or rain or splash, things like that. So one thing that I did do is add a pocket on the inside. I used a hammock for a lot of years, and I always made these little bags to hang from my ridgeline, kind of like ridgeline organizers, and I just have a couple of separate pockets here. Good for, storing, if you set your phone in there, or your headlamp, earplugs, anything you may need throughout the night, fits pretty well. One thing I didn't do on this one that I like to do on a lot of them, I'll probably show it in another video, I like to add an extra layer on the back of these, which creates a pocket so that I can just slide a water bottle in and it'll stay in there on the side, instead of having my water bottle kind of just flop around on the base of the floor of the tent here. But I don't know, it's something I could still add, just sew it in on the back. But so far it's definitely been a very welcomed addition to the tent here, and I think it adds a lot of value. All right, so that's my look at the 6 Moon Design Serenity Net Tent.